What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean the freedom to choose? The freedom to have a family and raise your kids according to your own values? What about living a wild, adventurous life, experimenting with music, relationships, or art? What does freedom really mean? What if freedom meant something that only a few Americans still understood? What if it meant that your choices and your values were set by you, rather than by some politician in a far-off capital? Some people think we're only free to choose to live exactly how they live, by their moral code, or their narrow worldviews. But if liberty means anything, it means that you, and you alone, have the power to exercise your rights to which the laws of nature and nature's God granted you. It's time to put these principles back into action. It's time to restore the American dream, activate in our communities, and take our country back. It's time to wake up, America. Good morning. It's 7:02. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Happy Monday. Glad to have you here. Happy Columbus Day, or Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. A scandal of huge proportions ripped open over the weekend when it was announced by PayPal that they would debit $2,500 from the accounts of people who contributed to misinformation online. The backlash was swift and decisive. We'll talk about it at the top of the show, and I'll have on Rodney Smith, a.k.a. Lord Petty, this morning at 7:15 a.m. to explain why he thinks PayPal did it. And at 7:35, Vance Ginn will join me to discuss the national conservative war against zombie Hayekianism. Brains, eat the people who have brains. Because we have none. No, that's not a Halloween reference, so sounds like a great costume for liberty lovers. Instead, it's an attack that national conservatives are making against fiscal conservatives like you and I. We'll talk about this new threat to our liberty and what it means with the former White House top economist under Donald Trump. And Kanye finally found an issue that not even conservatives will get his back over. The rapper made some comments alluding to his belief that Jewish people were the originators of cancel culture. My Jewish friend and Republican strategist David Winery will join us this morning at 8 a.m. with his unorthodox opinion on the topic. And the man, the myth, the legend, Roger Stone joins us at 8:30 this morning to talk about the kangaroo court of the January 6th committee and his new article debunking the partisan myths and lies being told by swampy politicians desperate to prevent Donald Trump's return to the White House. And finally, today is YouTube Monday. Last week's coordinated social media efforts bore excellent results in growing our presence on each platform. So I'm asking all of our listeners and all of our viewers today to gather on YouTube and to use that platform to comment and interact with the show. And of course, you can text in at 573-319 1586. That's 573-319-1586. Good morning. Happy Monday. Today's going to be a great show for you today. The guests are fantastic. The topics are awesome. And I would not be surprised if by around 8 a.m. this morning, we have already been shut down on 2 or 3 of the social networks that we're on. Now, we're on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, wakeupAmericaShow.com, Twitch, as well as a few other platforms as well. But I'm asking all of our listeners and viewers to join me over on YouTube and to coordinate our efforts there to help grow that page. We're about halfway to monetization on YouTube, and provided that I don't get shut down on that anytime soon, it should be able to be a good revenue stream for the future. I appreciate you very much for participating, and thank you very much for watching the show. All right, let's get into it. Big controversy over the weekend. PayPal had to backtrack after the policy that they pushed that would have fined users $2,500 for spreading, quote, misinformation. They claimed that this update had gone out in error. Yeah. What do we think about that? Not quite sure. So the comment that they put out, they said that this policy update went out in error. It included incorrect information. PayPal is not fining people for misinformation, and the language was never intended to be inserted in our policy. Bull, you know what? Yeah. I don't know if you do any business with PayPal. I can tell you that I've done business with PayPal for years, and I read this in its totality, and it was quite frightening what PayPal had proposed and what they would do. They were going to, at least initially, they were going to fine people who were using their service for promoting misinformation online or what they called hate speech online. They declined to define what hate speech was, but they argued that each infraction would have been a $2,500 fine. So it wasn't as if you would just get in trouble once and then you would get a $2,500 fine for every single time that PayPal had announced that you had inserted misinformation online, or that you had engaged in what they call hate speech. These days, what the left would call just, Christian values or Christian morality, or anyone who disagrees with the left, essentially. And I'm not a Christian. I'm just saying this as someone who knows that the left has declared war against Christianity and against Christian values and ethics. They would call that hate speech, right? And so PayPal making this announcement over the weekend sparked a tremendous backlash. It was really exciting to see, though, the people who pulled together to fight against this and forced PayPal to reverse course on this. The former CEO of PayPal actually tweeted, "It's hard for me to openly criticize a company I used to love and gave so much to, but PayPal's new policy goes against everything that I believe in." He was the former PayPal president, David Marcus, who blasted the company. He says a private company now gets to decide to take your money if you say something they disagree with. Insanity. And then tech titan Elon Musk replied that he agreed in a comment that got, of course, tens of thousands of likes. Now, the policy update had appeared to authorize the company to pull a significant sum of money from the accounts of users that they claim spread misinformation, right? And the new conditions were supposed to be added to this user agreement on November 3rd. And the first people who reported this were Ben Shapiro's outfit, the Daily Wire. Big shout out to my buddy Ben. Congrats on that one for getting the scoop. Changes include prohibitions, I'm reading this verbatim, on the sending, posting, or publication of any policy that already forbade a publication of any messages, content, or materials that, quote, promote misinformation. Now, the prior policy already forbade hate, intolerance, and discrimination, but the new one would have applied to specific protected groups and, quote, individuals or groups based on protected characteristics. Identities under that umbrella would be things like race or religion or gender identity, as well as sexual orientation. Now, the rulebook doesn't list those terms, so it's unclear whether PayPal is also going to pull back the specific prohibitions that they have on discriminatory language already, or if it's just scrubbing the misinformation clause. And as of now, 7:09 this morning Central Time, on October the 10th of 2022, we do not know what they're going to do in terms of, whether or not they will still fine you for going against a protected group, or what they would call, right? So let's say that you're Matt Walsh, or you're some other Christian speaker who, doesn't believe in gay marriage or homosexuality or converting children to transgenders and doing this kind of a thing. If you had business with them on PayPal, in theory, PayPal could go and say, hey, you are engaging in hate speech, and we will now be debiting you $2,500 for each infraction. I mean, you could quickly bankrupt somebody doing that. The backlash was tremendous. I mean, the interest, we've seen people getting banned online. It's one thing to ban people from being able to use a platform. It's another thing to just steal their money. And I wonder what you think about this. Send me a text, 573-319-1586. The number is 573-319-1586. Now, I'm going to go to a commercial break a little bit early because I want to have a little extra time with my next guest. His name is Rodney Smith. He's a comic and an author. He's the host of the Lord Petty podcast, and he had some really spicy things to say about this over the weekend, and who he has to blame might surprise you. I think you're going to want to hear this. Stick around. We'll be back with Lord Petty when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
And stronger and better.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money, and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it, we've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning. It's 7:15. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. It's time to rise in freedom. Happy Monday. Thanks so much for joining us. Women control pop culture, writes my next guest, Rodney Smith, a.k.a. Lord Petty. He says, as long as the left panders to women with destructive, comforting lies, the main narrative will just get crazier and keep infiltrating every aspect of life outside of politics. See PayPal. How are those things connected? I guess we'll have to have him on to explain right now. Joining me now, Rodney Smith. He's a comedian. He's an author, host of the Lord Petty podcast. He's very hilarious. He's joining us right now. Good morning, Rodney. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show.
I appreciate you, man. And first and foremost, I just want to say congrats on the new show. Appreciate the intro there. And, I do want to preface that we're going to be making some general statements here. Okay. I don't want to offend anybody. We have to kind of talk in these general terms every once in a while. It's kind of like saying, it's kind of like saying mostly a more educated person is going to make more money. Somebody that works out more is going to build more muscle. So we talk in these general terms. I know there's going to be outliers. A lot of times people try to discredit your opinion by finding these outliers. So my statement is that women control what the mainstream narrative is. And the left, they are very smart and they know this, and they have penetrated the hearts and minds of the people through forms of media, movies, the radio shows people listen to. I mean, it's all geared towards women. For anything to be popular, I mean, the best thing that can happen to somebody for a brand is for women to pick it up. If you watch a commercial, it's all geared towards women. So in the pop culture world, men, we are just background dancers. And so what the left, I mean, think about it. If you walk into a room, right, you can be wearing a $10,000 suit. If you walk in with a beautiful woman, all eyes are going to be on her. That's how we're wired. And it's a good thing. And the left, they know this. So what they do is they pander to the women with comfortable lies, destructive behavior. And they say, okay, you can behave like this. As long as you vote for us, that'll be the norm. And it just creates this kind of toxic cycle. And so what I am really advocating for, I kind of sound like a reverse feminist here, is that we get more women who see through the BS to speak up, because, and like I said, this is a general statement. That's why I kind of wanted to preface it and not appear sexist or something like that.
Oh, it's okay. Hold on. Let me interject for just a moment. If you're just tuning
Yes,
in,
sir.
we're speaking to Rodney Smith, aka Lord Petty. You can text the show at 573-319-1586 with your opinion on this one. But Rodney, what I'd like to know is, how do you get from there? How do you make that logical leap from there to PayPal? Because when you posted that that Instagram post that got my attention, you said see PayPal. So when you say women control pop culture, how does PayPal come into this?
Well, because it just became the norm. We became so, I mean, if women start doing anything, right? So if you just look at the main narrative as a whole spectrum, these companies, like I mentioned, commercials, they pander to, it has to be, so to say, woman friendly. And so for me to come out and say, oh, there's only two genders, or a man can't get pregnant, or whatever it may be, that's going to offend the far leftist person, which is often kind of feminine behavior, to be honest. And so now you get these companies who are getting on board with this woke culture. And so to support that narrative, they're infringing on our freedoms in whatever way they can. And it's translated into pop culture. I mean, PayPal is just an average thing. It's not political. It's not a political thing, but politics have so you can't avoid them at this point.
Right. If you so what you're arguing here essentially is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that essentially what PayPal is doing is trying to placate females and try and play into a female narrative because that's the way that pop culture and society is going. So they don't want any females out there to be offended by any potential hate speech online, which I'm pretty sure, if PayPal had left this policy in place, we would have already had 3 or 4 fines from what you've already said. But I mean, you say it in a comedic way, but there is a point here, and the point is that the left has a very pro-feminist worldview, and what the way that men talk is what they would call toxic, right? But that's just between guys. We make jokes, and sometimes those jokes are offensive or rude, but they're not meant to destroy someone or even to bully someone. They're just a way for us to sort of they're just the way that men communicate. Is that Am I right or wrong in that?
No, that's absolutely correct. And that's I'm so kind of I kind of go off on these things. I'm very passionate about my ideas, but imagine if Venmo, and I know Venmo is a subsidiary of PayPal, so it might be a bad example, but imagine if one of these companies came out and said, "Oh, if you claim that high testosterone is bad, we're going to fine you $1,000." I mean, people would lose their minds. It's absolutely, and I guess PayPal, they didn't really clarify what they would consider misinformation, but we all know what the misinformation is. We all know that being just
Right.
even a moderate person with good intention has become extremist right-wing propaganda or whatever they call it at this point.
Yeah,
And so that's
one of our listeners over on YouTube, Chris Morrill, asked a question. He says, "Does this show use PayPal to broadcast? How could they find you here?" Well, you have to understand that like the underlying payment system to which most of like my advertisers are going to pay me for this show is going to come through PayPal. Right? Somebody was commenting about like Patriot Printing, for example. And my buddy Jasper Logan runs a printing business out of Northwest Missouri. And we have an agreement for him to pay me to run his commercial in this show, and he pays me through PayPal. So I mean, if I had a $2,500 fine, that directly impinges on my ability to monetize this show and my ability to do business. But I mean, this is rampant. I mean, the thing is that the pushback on this was a good thing, and the fact that they actually pushed back on it and said, "Hey, we're going to remove this policy." I mean, it is a good thing, but I think we're going to see more of this, don't you, Rodney?
I think we're going to see a lot more of it because what these out of touch big companies, these big woke companies, they don't realize the strength in numbers that just moderate and right leaning people, just like the same majority that we actually have. I mean, there's a country music singer. I forget his name off the top of my head. Maybe you're more familiar than I am, but he had a #1 record recently. It's called Progressive, or Progress is the name of the record. And he basically talks about all these issues and basically, shove it up your where. This song had no major promotion. It was only posted on Truth Social and on his website. It ended up going #1. So the people feel a certain way. We aren't heard. People are slowly getting pissed off, and the pushback's coming, the pendulum's swinging back. So I'm very just proud of, I've never been more proud to not be a liberal, and just seeing the pushback from the people, the social media outcry, even though it's kind of a negative word towards this. It's just refreshing. It's nice to see people stand up.
If you're just tuning into the show, I'm speaking to Rodney Smith, aka Lord Petty. You can find him on Instagram as well as on Twitter. You can text the show 573-319-1586. One of the things too that I find so funny about this, or fascinating, Rodney, is that like all of these supposedly quote pro women policies and this push for the feminization of men and the emasculation of men, is that these policies don't actually benefit women in the end. I mean, in my opinion, women are unhappier than they have ever been, especially with men. And it seems as, when they're talking about like the available pool of men that they want to date, whether you look at the statistics from the dating sites or Tinder or what have you, the amount of men that women are actually interested in is getting smaller and smaller, because I think there's a lot of men that have sort of voluntarily emasculated themselves because they thought that that's what women wanted. But the reality is that all of this push to feminize men, it hasn't worked out very well for women either. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. And I don't want to get your show pulled off YouTube, but this is something I'm very aware of, because it just, the whole feminization of men, it's something they think they want. I think I want to eat a tub of ice cream for dinner. Do I really want that? No. It's something I maybe want for a second, but then the repercussions of it is, okay, I'm going to be a fat tub of, and so when these women, they think we need balance in the universe, we need balance in the universe, and a strong masculine man who's there to provide, protect, do what he has to do to put his woman first. That's a healthy relationship. And a woman that doesn't have this ego problem with supporting her man, making him look as great to the world as she possibly can, taking care of the kids. The fact that this is a taboo, like weird right-wing thing at this point is just mind-blowing. And deep down, none of these women are happy. It's like when guys say, I want a girl that will play Madden with me and wear sneakers. Yeah, that's cool for about a week. But no, eventually you want your girl to wear a dress, grab some dinner and look pretty. So
if you're just tuning into the show, we're talking to Rodney Smith, aka Lord Petty. He's a comedian and author. He's the host of the Lord Petty podcast. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. Rodney, is there anything else that you think our listeners should know before I let you go?
No, I don't want to push the envelope too much here, but I just, like I said, I really thank you for having me on. I think it's a great platform you have. I'm really excited for your future, everything you're going to do, and hope to come back sometime.
Where can people follow you online?
You can follow me on Instagram's probably my main channel. That's Lord Petty 2_, because the original 2 got nuked. So I have 2 Instagram pages, Lord Petty _, and then on Twitter, Lord Petty _ as well.
Highly recommend. He's a great follow. Lord Petty over there on Instagram. If you are looking for that information later, feel free to send me a text and I'll make sure that you get to the right Instagram. I'll send you the link. Rodney Smith, thanks so much for coming on the show today. Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Boy, good conversation there. What do you think about what PayPal did? Is this just another example of leftist cancel culture? Now, what about cancel culture from certain religious groups? No, not the Christians. No, not the Muslims. What about another group there? My buddy David Winery is a member of the tribe. So what he says cannot be canceled. If you pull down my stream because of what David Winery says on my show at 8 a.m. about Kanye West's comments about God's chosen people, then it's anti-Semitic and a hate crime, and I'm going to punish you with a $2,500 fine if you take down this stream for that. We'll be back with more when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here, and we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Wife. I want to thank you all for You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you?
I want to ask you today to join Peterson's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Peterson's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion, delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table, or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
You know, I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Good morning. It's 7:31. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Glad to have you here. Thanks for joining us. You can text the show this morning at 573-319-1586. Well, it's Halloween. It's spooky season. So my next tweet sounds eerily perfect for the season. No more ghoulish, libertarian, zombie Hayekianism, but a positive vision of the whole. What the hell are they talking about? This tweet over the weekend sparked quite a backlash when someone gave a lecture on the New Right, as they call themselves. The New Right is a public orientation to God, an ecumenical integralism. Those are some big words. No longer slashing government. Since when have we slashed government? But use it for the good of the family and the nation. And finally, this no more ghoulish libertarian zombie Hayekianism, but a more positive vision of the whole. Boy, that's a big word salad. And quite frankly, I don't feel like going on a diet. Let's get my buddy in here. He's Vance Ginn. He's the former top economist in the White House under Donald Trump and a senior fellow at Young Americans for Liberty. He's joining us on the line right now. Good morning. How are you, Vance?
Hey, good morning, Austin. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm doing well. Get excited about to talk about these spooky topics.
Yeah, very spooky. Ghoulish zombie libertarianism. No more slashing government. I don't know what the hell he's talking about here. Vance, can you decode this for us?
Well, it seems to me that he thinks that the Hayekian sort of perspective is that there is little to no government, that there's anarchy, there's just anarcho-capitalism and that sort of thing, and there's no morality within the system. And so we need to move away from that sort of approach, which I guess in his view we've been living in for a long time. I'm not so sure about that. To an approach where the government, that politicians should be deciding exactly what the morality should be, how the economy should function, and things of that nature. But unfortunately, he's got the situation wrong. I mean, Hayek was not what I would consider to be an anarchist, where there was no government at all. It was just that there was going to be a government that was as limited as possible to preserve liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that sort of thing, more from a classical liberal approach. And unfortunately, this sort of situation where you see some of this national conservatism, which is Josh Hammer is spouting out some of what they believe there in that tweet, is heading in that direction of bigger government, to where they know what's best. They should be able to take us in the right direction. And my concern with that is like, okay, you get what you want, Josh, but what happens whenever it's the other side? What happens whenever there's someone else that's in power and starts heading it in the other direction? That's why every time we must make liberty win. Every single time, that liberty is the answer and the solution, by having less government, more free markets. And when you do that, you really get a better morality sort of situation, because people can be able to choose from their subjective values, what their preferences are going to be in a civil society. And that's what we need more of, Austin, instead of this direction of more what I consider to be ultimately authoritarianism.
I mean, this really is, in essence, it's big government conservatism unmasked. I mean, we've known for years that many conservatives were not interested in slashing government or cutting the size of government, but at least they were interested in conserving the institutions that we had before us, the Constitution and limited government. But I mean, this seems to be this doesn't really seem to be conservatism much at all. The only difference it seems between them and Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders is that these people go to church on Sunday.
Yeah. What are they trying to conserve here? I mean, that's really the foundations for conservatism. Whenever you look down at it, and Edmund Burke and that sort of Burkean sort of idea is conserving those institutions that allow us to flourish in some way. And I think there's a lot of actually good to that. And in many ways, the problem is what I see. What seems to be the case now, Austin, is that they're wanting to conserve what they believe is best. It's not the institutional framework that allows for free markets to work. It's more of a top-down approach. Here's exactly what we believe, and here's exactly what everyone else should believe in the process. And what I really find it's kind of troubling from more of an economic perspective, when you think about the trade-offs, are the assumptions that go into what their way of thinking is from this national conservatism sort of approach. My assumption as a classical liberal, let me just start there, lowercase libertarian, right, is that what my assumption is that government's the problem. That's one reason why I say, in the Fed. That's why I say we need spending limits and spend less overall, and we need to make spending bad again, those sort of things, because government is the problem. And what I see now from this national conservatism sort of movement, it's not just government's the problem, but it could be big tech's the problem, big banks are the problem, big pharma's the problem. All these other things where what's the root cause to these problems is government. Propping these companies up, propping businesses up in the process, making regulatory capture where there are the rules of the game that are not the same for everyone. And what you really want in a classical liberal approach from a limited government, it was where the rules of the game are the same for everyone. And so you do that by limiting government, not by expanding government in the process, because then what you have is a situation where government's trying to solve a problem that was first created by government.
This is, if you're just tuning in, we're speaking to Vance Ginn. He's a senior fellow at Young Americans for Liberty. He was also the top economist in the White House under the Trump administration. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. Now, Vance, the first statement that he made in this one, probably the most controversial and the one that probably sparks the most ire amongst the left. But for secularists like myself, I have to pose a question here that to many Christians I think would seem obvious. But to those of us who are not Christians, it's not obvious. He says that the top priority should be a public orientation to God and ecumenical integralism. So I guess my question is, which God?
Yeah, that's a good question. I am a Christian, and so I kind of get where he's going with it. But at the same time, I think that's where you also need free markets to come in. That we are ordained from our Creator. If you think about it, with the Declaration of Independence and things of that nature of where we're heading in a country. But at the same time, that this is allowing us to have our rights being upheld by government. That's where contract law comes into place. That's where maybe a national defense comes in that allows for security instead of going around and trying to provide order across the rest of the globe. We should be doing more order here, more security here, instead of sending money to other countries. Send more, do things here instead of rolling back big government and regulation and taxes. And so, to your point, where does this come down from the laws of the land to say, okay, what exactly should we be doing? I do think that needs to be some sort of morality, but this is also part of who we are as people. That it's not okay to kill people,
But I mean, like, I guess what I would be alluding to, with without being too literal here. I mean, if you live in Dearborn, Michigan, and you heard someone from the majority religion of Dearborn, Michigan, making these kinds of claims, I'm sure the Christians would be quite upset and quite concerned about the push for statism and big government and a public orientation from God from the majority religion of the people who live in Dearborn, Michigan. I think you know what I'm alluding to here.
Yes.
My question is, and again, I'm not trying to be petty in asking this, but I mean, what separates the I guess you'd call them national conservatives? What separates them from the Taliban?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess a key part of that, to what you're getting at, is, do we want a theocracy or republic?
That is my question. Yeah.
Right. And I think we want a republic. We do not want a theocracy. Ultimately, in my view, right, again, as a Christian, is that the ultimate law of the land is God's law. But that controls me. That maybe sets the stage for what we as a society would believe to some extent, but it doesn't mean that you should have this top-down approach that you would make it to where government is orchestrating what the laws of those from God are. That's kind of a difference there, to where we need people to have what I believe is free will, right? Where you have freedom and liberty and things of that nature, that we get to live in the world that we're in today. And if you're not going to be able to to live a prosperous life, and I like to say, let people prosper, without having that spiritual, intellectual, and material sort of freedom and liberty that's really going to allow you to be prosperous overall.
If you're just tuning in the show, I'm speaking to Vance Ginn. You can text the show 573-319-1586. You tweeted out an article over the weekend from Discourse Magazine where the title of it was called "Do the Populists Have a Point?" The subtitle was "Populism may be a reaction to real problems, but the solutions will come from the very liberal institutions that populists criticize." It makes a really good point, right? Back in, the student loan heyday, Bill Clinton campaigned, in 1992 by promising increased access to student loans. And everybody was really excited about this, right? Because the idea was that it was, we're going to help the little guy. We're going to go out there. We're going to give people more access to college. But all it's resulted in is, poorer and middle class people paying off the student loans of people who go to college and make more money than them. So in an odd sense, populism has led to this twisted form of elitism. It's kind of a paradox, if you will, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think populism, it sounds good. It can make for some good campaign slogans to be elected. And look, whenever you're working from a populist perspective, which I think a lot of presidents do, right, in order to get elected, is that you have maybe tax cuts on one hand, to where you're giving handouts to some, and then you're getting big government spending on the other hand, and putting more money in pockets of other people. And really what it ends up being is just a big redistribution scheme. I mean, the government doesn't have any money. We know that, Austin, but a lot of them in Congress don't. They tend to think that there is, they do have money, but it's all coming from the taxpayer. So it all must be redistributed throughout the entire economy. It's one of the major issues that I think we have right now in the labor market. It's so much money was redistributed to people, and they have tons of savings now that they don't want to go back to work. And there was handouts after handout after handout. And so this has to be changed somehow. And so then the populist rhetoric is also that, the Fed can just keep spending. I mean, part of modern monetary theory, which says that you can just print, and you could tax it away, tax inflation away, and there's not going to be any inflation from that, really comes from a more populist sort of rhetoric. Right. I even think some of the national conservatism is coming from a populist rhetoric, because it's giving more handouts to people, trying to give people exactly what they want without thinking about the trade-offs, the cost of what those actions are going to be. It's not just about being elected. It's also about making sure that we can be a flourishing civil society, a limited government that's going to allow us to be as prosperous as possible, which comes through liberty, right? Not through big government, not through redistribution. In fact, those things are the path to serfdom, like Hayek. Going back to Hayekian, back to the beginning, those are the roads to serfdom. If another good book, though, I think people ought to read from Hayek is The Fatal Conceit, which he really gets into the knowledge problem. That's another big part that I meant to mention earlier, but the government doesn't have the amount of knowledge that's available to the public at large. It's one of the reasons why they will be doomed to failure the more often that they try to take on these big proposals and populist sort of approach, because time and again they will fail, just like we've seen in the past.
I'm not sure if this is breaking news, but I see this is just posted an hour ago over at the Clinton News Network this morning. The headline is this: the Nobel Prize in Economics will be awarded to a trio, including Ben Bernanke, for work on financial crises. He's going to win a Nobel Prize in Economics. It's almost like giving Stalin a climate change award for reducing the population and amount of climate change there. You think Ben Bernanke deserves a Nobel Prize?
Hey, look, I mean, Austin, look, I studied a lot about Ben Bernanke from his book on the Great Depression. He had a lot of good information in there, went along with some of the Friedman sort of approach of increases in or the decline in the money supply driven by the Fed. Basically, the Fed was the problem there, and I agree with that. I think if you look at what the Fed did before the Great Depression and the Smoot-Hawley tariff acts and the subsidies that was put in place by the president, then you really led to the Great Depression. And so there were some lessons to be learned from that. But what happened was during the 07, 08, 09 sort of financial crisis, Ben Bernanke was there. He was the chair of the Federal Reserve. He became the chair of the Federal Reserve in 2006. So he should have seen a lot of these problems going on well before that. And what they forget to do, which I think is so important about the Austrian School of Economics, right, is you have to understand the boom before you can understand the bust. And he may have learned a lot about the bust and how to throw more money at the problem. But what that ends up doing is sets up a situation for the problems that were already there. It just compounds on the problem. And so then we led to lower interest rates for a long period of time. And then when the shutdowns happen, we have this huge financial crisis now. So maybe in some quarters he will be needed or expected to have the Nobel Prize, but I really question some of the things, and even some of the others too, with Diamond there and the other person that I was reading a little bit about this morning. They were really about the financial crises and looking at banks and what they do with banks. But I think what they've overlooked is how much influence and manipulation that the Federal Reserve has. And as we talked about, we ultimately need to end the Fed. One last thing I'll say here is that Ben Bernanke did talk a lot about inflation targeting. He was for monetary rules. So at least until we get to ending the Fed, which we need to quickly, we at least need to have rules in place. Unfortunately, though, he didn't live by some of his own research that he had at the time. So, I think there's probably an argument to be made that he should win the Nobel, but I really question some of this because I'd like to see a lot of others who are more free market oriented win the Nobel Prize.
Vance, if I could write talking points, then they would be exactly verbatim what you say here on the show. Vance Ginn, you are a senior fellow at Young Americans for Liberty and a great defender of freedom. We appreciate your time today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for what you're doing. I look forward to seeing you next time. Thank
you very much for coming on the show. Do you guys like Vance Ginn? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. We'd love to hear from you and your thoughts on his appearances. It looks like you guys have got a lot of comments over there. I can see them. I will definitely read them during the break. We've got a lot more great show to go. My buddy, David Winery, is a Republican strategist and also a member of God's chosen people. And he has a lot to say about Kanye West's comments about God's chosen people. We're going to be racking up the $2,500 hate speech fees from PayPal all morning long. You don't want to miss a single minute of the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I enlisted as a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury, I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit SaluteHeroes.org to learn more.
if there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
Had enough yet? Do facts no longer matter? Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have, the facts on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
It's me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet? How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tea and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty Shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning. Happy Monday. It's 7:52. Happy Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, and Wake Up America Show Day. Glad to have you here. Have you enjoyed the guests so far? Boy, that was great. Vance Ginn is always a terrific interview, and I'm so thankful that he gives his time to us every single week when they come on the show. Some people sometimes get confused and they think that, oh, you get paid to be a guest on people's show, but that's not the case. These people all volunteer their time to come in here and join me and talk to you. So make sure that if you see them online that you say thanks for joining us on the Wake Up America show. Today's YouTube Monday, which means I'd love it if you're watching the show if you would join us over on YouTube at AP for Liberty over on YouTube. Tomorrow is Tuesday. We'll do Twitch Tuesdays, and a couple of announcements real quick. I know that you've probably already heard this week I'm going on vacation. Tomorrow after the show, I'm going to leave immediately to go get on a plane, and we're headed to Florida, Stephanie and myself, and we're going with some friends to go out scuba diving. Now, the original plan was going to be that Wednesday morning was going to be a Florida special, that we were going to live stream the show from Florida, but unfortunately, logistically, that's not going to be able to happen. So Wednesday, you're going to get a pre-tape. However, you're still going to get your Florida special, and Judge Napolitano will still be with us. He's just going to join us on Thursday, and we're going to do the show Thursday live from Florida. We're going to talk about Ron DeSantis. We'll talk about the aftermath of Hurricane Ian, and we'll talk to Judge Napolitano on his thoughts on Ron DeSantis versus Donald Trump for the next election. What do you think about that? You can send us a text, 573-319-1586. Mary Kramer over on the live stream says that you are bringing some great guests to your show. Congrats, AP. Appreciate that very much. Charmedwin over on Twitch says, if you think Jeffrey Dahmer was bad, let me tell you about Christopher Columbus. And Melissa Roysden, it looks like Brandon Meyer and many others are talking about Christian nationalism this morning. Some people are claiming that Christian nationalism is not a thing, that it doesn't exist. But I mean, I think I disagree because, I mean, there's Jewish nationalism, right? They call that Zionism, and there's Islamic nationalism. They call that Wahhabism, or, Saudi Arabia, just call it Saudi Arabia, if you will. So, I mean, of course, there has to be a Christian nationalism, and people who believe in a Christian nation, you would probably be people who would be Christian nationalists. You could just call me a libertarian nationalist, if you will. I'm like Thomas Paine. The world is my church, and to do good is my religion. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. Drew Monk up and early and Adam with us this morning. Drew, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. We're glad to have you here. I want to talk to you and show you this clip real quick. Why the left hates Joe Rogan so much. I want to play this clip for you. This is him talking to the founder of Rolling Stone about misinformation online and cancel culture. We've been having this discussion about PayPal wanting to fine people $2,500 per misinformation that they post online. There was a huge backlash and they had to pull it back. But I thought this was interesting. The founder of Rolling Stone magazine wants the government to regulate the internet. Wait until you see what Joe Rogan had to say. Take a listen.
To regulate the internet?
Absolutely.
You trust the people that got us into the Iraq war under false pretenses to regulate the internet? Do you think that makes any sense?
Well, wait a minute. I would not. The people who got us into the Iraq war
it's the government.
Was the politicians.
It's the government.
In the end, yes, it's the government. But who else is going to regulate?
But if they're going to be in power and they're regulating the internet, they're going to regulate the internet in a way that suits their best interests. The same way they do with the bank.
Pause here for just a moment. I just want to say that I think that, the PayPal example, as terrible as what PayPal announced that they would do. Just remember this. The backlash was so strong, so quick, and so severe that they had to back off immediately. They had to back off that policy immediately. I saw so many tweets from people canceling their accounts from PayPal. If you're just tuning into the show and you're not, you're not sure what I'm talking about here, PayPal announced over the weekend a change to their policies that would have meant that if you post misinformation online, they would literally steal from you. They would literally take $2,500 out of your account every time they argued that you had posted, quote, misinformation online, which would bankrupt a lot of people, which was the point. But when people say, oh, well, the free, they make fun of libertarians saying, oh, well, the free market will solve it. The free market will solve it. The free market did solve it. The free market solved it pretty damn quick. Let's continue.
Banking industry, the same way they do with the environment, the same way they do with energy, the same way they do with everything. What represents their interests? There's you're talking about so much money involved in disseminating information in a very particular way.
The richest companies in the world right now are the internet companies are rich beyond belief.
Yeah, it's but it's a disruptive thing that has never existed before. I think it exists, and I think where we're at is where we're at. I think we need to move forward collectively as a country with an ethic that respects truth,
not to
and
the government.
That it appreciates opinions and
See, I think, Joe Rogan probably wouldn't classify himself as a libertarian, but boy, he really has libertarian impulses. I would love to go on his show one day and have a conversation with him about that and see if I can't draw it out a little bit more. I could only hope to do as well as Dave Smith does, because I think Dave Smith does a terrific job whenever he goes on Rogan. I will be going on Timcast. When I get back from Florida, I'll be on Timcast, Tim Pool's show on the 21st, fighting for libertarian cause principles as well. But let's continue on. This is just good stuff. Joe Rogan here talking to the founder of Rolling Stone magazine, who wants the government to regulate the internet, and Joe's kind of putting him in his place. Let's continue.
Reality and understanding of things that's not necessarily possible with corporate interest involved in the dissemination of information.
But there's no way to do that except through the government. There's no
way.
There's no
How
way.
can you say there's no way to do it? I mean, like, there's literally examples in your face. I mean, I don't know when they had this conversation. It looks like they had it on the 7th. So I guess, PayPal hadn't happened yet. But I mean, this is just an example of the left confirming their biases. They're ignoring what happened. I mean, the backlash to PayPal was immediate. They changed immediately. And they had to lie about, oh, we didn't mean to send this out. Dude, you make a change to your policy. You're a financial institution and you make changes to your policies. That goes through legal. Okay. There are many layers of approval that those kinds of policy term changes go through. When you say you're going to find like literally take $2,500 out of people's accounts, you had to go to a lawyer first, and several lawyers and several people at the C-level suites in order to get that kind of a policy change through. So there's no way that they didn't know that this was happening. Anyways, I got to go to break. My buddy David Winery is going to join us next, and he is a member of God's chosen people. Like Kanye West, who thinks that black people are a member of God's chosen people. Well, Christians believe that if you're a Christian, then you're a member of God's chosen people. It's also convoluted. We'll just have to talk to David Winery about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Do you have any real-world experience?
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect, And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway.
I need help.
You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
An artificial intelligence bill of rights intended to shape the way that institutions use this quickly evolving technology to protect consumer data and prevent discrimination, as it's been proven that this technology, specifically facial recognition technology, is not accurate when detecting faces of people of color. And one thing to note that's already been voiced by privacy advocates is that this blueprint did not consider banning AI as a way to prevent harm.
Growth of facial recognition and what it's capable of brings with it a host of privacy and civil liberties issues. Because if you want a sense of just how terrifying this technology could be if it becomes part of everyday life, just watch as a Russian TV presenter demonstrates an app called Find Face.
If you find yourself in a cafe with an attractive girl and you don't have the guts to approach her, no problem. All you need is a smartphone and the application Find Face. Find new friends, take a picture, and wait for the result. Now you're already looking at her profile page.
Burn it all down.
Lawmakers across the political spectrum have been critical of the federal government's use of artificial intelligence, specifically facial recognition technology, for some time now.
50 million cameras, violation of people's First Amendment, Fourth Amendment liberties, due process liberties, all kinds of mistakes. Those mistakes disproportionately impact African Americans, and no due process, no elected officials gave the okay from the states for the federal government, FBI, to use it.
And according to a report from 2021, the Government Accountability Office reports that 20 government agencies, including those not generally associated with law enforcement, like the IRS, the Post Office, NASA, and the Fish and Wildlife Service, have already used this technology. A subsequent but similar report from the GAO details that officials who work within these federal agencies that are using facial recognition technology aren't familiar with which companies they're using to perform the data collection, and they're not sure how often they're doing it. When asked why the Bill of Rights published this week does not consider banning AI as a way to prevent harm, one senior administration official said that was not the point of the blueprint.
Plenty. Good morning, it's 8:06 and you're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. It's time to rise in freedom. Well, Kanye West is in more trouble this weekend, and this time not even conservatives seem to be getting his back. Kanye's Instagram account was restricted following some posts that he made about God's chosen people. He says, "I'm a bit sleepy tonight, but when I wake up, I'm going DEFCON 3 on Jewish people." The funny thing is, he says he can't actually be anti-Semitic because black people are actually Jewish also. You guys have toyed with me and tried to blackball anyone who ever opposes your agenda. Well, has he gone too far? Let's talk to my next guest. He's a consultant and a member of the tribe, David Winery. Good morning, David. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Mr. Pearson.
Yeah, glad to have you here, David. So I saw your comments on Instagram. Do you want to kind of like lay out your case? What was your response to Kanye's tweet?
Well, I think I want to get a couple things out of the way. One, that I'm a very observant Jew. You know, I'm a member of Plaza Abad. Those are the Jews that dress in all black, that tend to follow the Jewish religion in Orthodox fashion. And when I saw what Kanye said, I mean, the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith, I can't say that I'm a very big fan of theirs. My Jewish affiliations, I guess, more run with Republican Jewish Coalition than they would with the ADL, but it's not that like the, but Kanye got ganged up on by all the Jews. And they even sent people like Puff Daddy out there to try to, you know, neutralize his opinions of the Jews. But I mean, when he wears a shirt that says White Lives Matter, and the Anti-Defamation League says that that opinion is somehow hateful And then they even have the temerity to call Kanye West a white supremacist. I mean, that kind of echoes what they did to Larry Elder when he was running for governor of California. You know, another black conservative. They called him a white supremacist. And to me, that just reeks of like, are you allowed to have your own opinion based if you don't have their, you know, if you're a black man, can you not have your own opinion? I know as being a Jew, I have opinions that are sometimes critical of the Jewish people, that are sometimes critical of the policies of Israel, that are sometimes critical of, say, some of our leaders like Dianne Feinstein and Chuck Schumer that I have no love for at all as far as their policies in the U.S. Senate and, you know, what their agenda is for America.
If you're just tuning in the show, I'm speaking with consultant David Winery about Kanye West's comments about the Jewish people. Now, one of the things, David, that Kanye said that got him in trouble too was that he says, "Who do you think originated cancel culture?" He seemed to be alluding to the Jewish people, almost as if it was some kind of like, you know, a Jewish conspiracy, if you will. And there's plenty of those going around, you know, in terms of, you know, conspiracy theories. But, you know, what was your take on that? I mean, you know, when he said, you know, when he alluded to the idea that, you know, the Jews originated cancel culture, what was your take on that?
Well, my take on that is that the Jewish people, it's no stretch to say that they have a very influential role in the media. The people who run Google are Jewish. Mark Zuckerberg is Jewish. Plenty of the people that are, you know, run CNN, you know, run MSNBC, run the New York Times, all Jews. And so if you're going to have Kanye came out and say, well, the Jews are trying to cancel me out, it's kind of like what you were saying about PayPal in your last segment. You know, they had to have consulted lawyers. They had to go all the way to the top. I mean, I'm sure, you know, Zuckerberg is not consulted about getting rid of Kanye off his platform, especially someone with 26, 27 million followers on Instagram. I'm sure he's consulted. And so it's kind of hard for the Jews to say, well, we own all this part of the media. We are in leadership positions of this part of the media. I mean, if it were Catholics that ran it all, or any other type of people that ran it all, they would probably be lumped in and said, well, they're trying to cancel me out. And it's hard. Go ahead.
You know, well, I was just going to say what's fascinating too, though, is that, you know, if you look at, you know, the people who originated the modern libertarian movement, as many of them were Jews as well. You know, Murray Rothbard and Ludwig von Mises and many others. You know, the people who are, you know, so it's so, you know, you find typically Jewish people, you know, their influence is outsized to their population numbers. Their influence is much higher in terms of, you know, their influence in the media and in the government and in, you know, the arts, because you know, because why? I mean, like, why do you think it is that, you know, Israel is such a tiny nation, but they're number 2 when it comes to patents and copyrights and trademarks behind the United States? Why do you think that is, that the Jews have such a powerful influence beyond their numbers, David?
Well, I mean, you said it yourself, a member of the tribe. We tend to help each other. We tend to work with each other. We're always there to lend each other a helping hand. I know I've done a lot of work with Jewish charities, and I've also received a lot of help from over my course of my life from very influential Jews. And I think that as a people, I mean, even to bring in Louis Farrakhan, for example, even he has said that he wishes that the Black people were as united and can work together as well as the Jews do. So when you have a small, well-organized group of people that are working together on something, I think that is why the Jews throughout history, and especially in today's world, we punch above our weight, so to speak, because we do help each other. Now, some people could call that nepotism. You know, I mean, some people call it, you know, what favoritism or whatever else you would like to say, but it is what it is with the Jewish culture. But I just think the Jews as a whole, when they do something and they do have a bad policy decisions, and they do have, like, censorship is a horrible policy decision. When you look at a lot of people that were thrown off Facebook and thrown off Instagram in the day, it seems like a lot of their popularity even rose, even after being thrown off the platforms. And then you also look at how Facebook right now is hemorrhaging money. They are firing people. They're laying off people. And I'm sure it's as a result of they've turned Facebook into this hive mind groupthink, where if you have an opposing opinion, even if you were to say something like, I don't believe a man can get pregnant, which is a biological, indisputable fact.
Hate speech.
I mean,
hate
I saw
speech.
Dave. Yeah,
That's
I
a
saw
$2,500 fine on that one.
Yeah, you're done. I did empty out my PayPal account, but I recently saw Dave Chappelle at the Uptown Theater in Kansas City, and he kind of said the same thing. There's nobody in this audience that was not born from the womb of a woman. And how is it hate speech? I mean, I've read, like, in Europe, I think it was in Sweden, some woman who's a leading feminist in Sweden. I mean, she is facing a prison term now for saying that men can't get pregnant, that trans women are not women. I mean, this is simple biology, and they're the ones that are doing all this fact checking. And now they're going to throw people off of their platforms.
Do you think that do you think that, like, the censorship of Kanye contributes even more to his message then? Are you trying to say then that, like, by the ADL and many of these other groups calling, Kanye West's behavior anti-Semitic, and then by suppressing his voice, that it sort of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, like you're kind of proving him right in a way?
Well, I think it does. I mean, it kind of goes back to the old saying of, how Richard Nixon, when he first ran for Congress, the reason he won is because his opponent started attacking him. And you've been in politics a long enough time to know that once your opponent has to start attacking you, you're giving your opponent legitimacy. You're giving them more, whatever you want to say, you're giving them more popularity. You're making more people focus on him. I mean, had there not been the huge hullabaloo about his White Lives Matter shirt, how many people in America follow Paris Fashion Week? I know I don't. I mean, I didn't even know it was going on.
It's a good point, David. It's a good point. Some of our followers and listeners this morning are chatting and sending in messages. They're asking if you have a Twitter account. Do you have a Twitter account, David, or have you?
I just have an Instagram account. I'm one of those people that when they, I don't know if this sounds good or bad, but when they threw Milo Yiannopoulos off of Twitter, I left. I mean, maybe I should have stayed and fought. I don't know.
I know that's kind of my strategy for it, but I can understand yours as well. David Winery, he's a strategist and good friend of the show, and you can find him on Instagram at The Winery. That's at TheWhinery at The Winery over on Instagram. David, you're a good buddy and a good man. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yep.
Have a good day, sir.
Yeah, we've got lots more great show to go. Did you like David? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We still got more great show to go. Roger Stone, the man, the myth, the legend. If we haven't already gotten kicked off a platform this morning for a hate crimes or a hate speech, then it's going to happen at 8:30 when we talk to Roger Stone about his campaign against the kangaroo court of the J6 committee. All that and more when we return on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Dee-Dee's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Dee Dee made Frenchie bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Dee Dee really likes it. Dee Dee said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake. Yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes. You like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchie Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchie Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Do you have any real-world experience?
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. It's 8:22. You're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. Have you been enjoying the show so far today? Looks like Wood Hippie is enjoying it. He sent us a text today. Good morning, Wood Hippie. He sent us in a text at 573-319-1586. He said the winery is a very good guest. Wood Hippie approves. Andy Opperman says that your guests are really impressive. I thoroughly enjoy the kind of intellectual firepower you were able to bring to this show. Hell yeah.
Perfect.
You can text us in too at 573-319-1586. We still got more great show to go. Roger Stone, the man, the myth, the legend, is going to join us to talk about his campaign against the kangaroo court of the January 6th committee. Boy, if we haven't gotten hit with a $2,500 fine on PayPal by the end of this show, I'm going to be sincerely disappointed. I think we're going to get one, though. I'll tell you why, because I'm going post a little election conspiracy theory here. I'm going to share a video of someone who claims that the election was stolen. That's right. Yes, the thing that will absolutely get you pulled down from every single social network that big tech offers, except for perhaps Rumble or perhaps Mike Lindell's social network. We're going to play a video of someone talking about 5 minutes denying the election. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking to yourself, Austin, don't do it. We want to be able to watch the show. Today is YouTube Monday, so of course everybody is joining us over on YouTube today. We're all coordinating our efforts over there. It's good to see Camellia, Quest Fanning, Brandon Meyer, and many others. Chris Morrill over on YouTube. We appreciate you very much. You can text us in at 573-319-1586 if you're not on any of the socials, of course, which I completely understand. But here we go. I'm going to go ahead and switch on over to some Twitter weirdness. This is 5 minutes of someone denying the election, claiming the election was stolen. Here we are.
I do have one very affirmative statement to make. We won. But I didn't lose. I got the votes. But we won't know exactly how many because of how they cheated. I did win my election. I just didn't get to have the job. We were robbed of an election.
Using the word rigged, using the word steal, do you think it's dangerous going into 2020?
I don't, because we can actually back it up. And so in response to what I believe was a stolen election, and I'm not saying they stole it from me, they stole it
election.
from the voters.
Stolen election.
That's when
You can't say that.
If I'm ever going to concede, the answer is no.
This is not a speech of concession.
$2,500 fine.
Because concession means to acknowledge an action is right, true, or proper. And I will not concede because the erosion of our democracy is not right.
People will make you mad. They're going to steal your election.
You're going to steal your
election. It was not a free and fair election. I think the election was stolen from the people of Georgia. It was not a free and fair election? I believe it was stolen from the voters. Thousands of Georgians had their voices stolen because they were not able to cast ballots.
Now, let's just pause here for just a moment. I think you know what I'm getting at here, and I think you understand that I'm pointing out the hypocrisy here. And are we playing whataboutism to a certain extent? Sure, maybe, a little bit. But I think the point still stands, because for how long now, since Joe Biden was elected, the whole fraud, stolen election narrative would get you pulled down on social media faster than if you had bought a bottle of Aunt Jemima pancake syrup and put it on your stream. But watching this clip of Stacey Abrams saying very clearly, and not just saying that her election was stolen, she was sitting in front of a group of young black people telling these young kids that they are going to steal your elections. And yet this goes completely unpunished on social media, what the left engages in. This is the kind of behavior that the left can engage in unabated, and it's why it's so important for us to be developing alternative platforms, or what we are now calling, this will be the first time I'll use this phrase on this show, alt tech. It's time for us to be creating alternative institutions. I don't know what institutions there are that are alternatives to PayPal, but we need to find them, and we need to grow them, and we need to support them. I know that, today may be YouTube Monday, and that I'm trying to grow that platform with the hopes that things will get better in free speech in the future. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Maybe this will get pulled down just because I said stolen election, just like Stacey Abrams did. But when I say it, it's not okay. In which case I'm over at Rumble, on Rumble at AP for Liberty. And the hope is that platform will take off, and that it will grow, and that we will see more free speech in the future, not less. I'm one of those people who's optimistic. I think that things are going to get better. And maybe what I should have done in 2016 when I ran against Gary Johnson, I should have just said, Gary stole the election. Bill Weld stole the election. Or I should have said, Josh Hawley, he stole the election. And then I could get a job at MSNBC or become the head of the Republican Party like Stacey Abrams did. That's what you got to do. You got to be completely unscrupulous. Politics does not reward honesty and forthrightness. Let's talk to Roger Stone about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Austin's wife. I want to thank you all for watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson. This show has been a huge venture for our family, so we would love it if you could join us.
I believe in liberty, and I believe in Austin's ability to spread the ideas of liberty. Do you?
I want to ask you today to join Peterson's Patriots with a pledge of $17.76 a month. Help us to stay cancel-proof so we can spread the message of limited government across the country. I joined Peterson's Patriots myself, just in a little different way. Visit wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and make your pledge today.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No.
And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. Do not come. Do not come.
Have you ever received a royalty payment from a company that you later oversaw money going to that company?
I don't know as a fact, but I doubt it.
Well, here's the thing is, why don't you let us know?
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. It's 8:32, and you're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show with Austin Peterson at wakeupAmericaShow.com. The Washington Post admits that Roger Stone, the man, the myth, the legend, did nothing wrong. Even the Washington Post now admits, according to the National File, that Roger Stone, who has been persecuted more than almost any man that I know, by the government and its goons, is joining us on the show right now to discuss the kangaroo court of the January 6th committee. Good morning, Roger. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. It's nice to see you.
Austin, great to be with you.
Yeah, glad to have you here, Roger. Now, you're a man who needs no introduction. Many of the people who have been watching my show know who you are and what you're all about. You call yourself a libertarian. You go back to the Nixon administration. You've always fought for limited government causes. And because of that, you have been persecuted from then until today. But it seems as if the persecution has stepped up even more in recent years, not just by the government, but by private companies who have attempted to suppress your voice on platforms. I wouldn't be surprised if they try and take this show down just for me having you on here today, but we cannot be afraid. We have to go forward and fight against the enemies of liberty and stand together, Roger. What is the Washington Post piece that the National File is referencing, claiming in regards to your innocence compared to the January 6th committee's assertions?
Well, Austin, thanks for having me. First of all, I think it's important to recognize that I was not even on the ellipse on January 6th, did not march to the Capitol, wasn't at the Capitol. An FBI investigation that concluded in March concluded that neither I nor Alex Jones had anything to do with any illegal act on January 6th, or was I involved other than public commentary, which I think is still allowed under the First Amendment, regarding the delay in the certification of the Electoral College. But the Washington Post is still bent out of shape over the fact that I escaped the deadly snare set for me by Robert Mueller and Adam Schiff, in which I was charged for lying to Congress, get this, about Russian collusion. How does one lie about something that we now know definitively didn't actually happen? So because I'm a 42-year friend of Donald Trump and advisor, I have been repeatedly targeted. You're right, I'm banned for life on Twitter. That happened in 2017. Banned for life on Facebook. That happened in 2020. Banned for life on Instagram. Banned for life on TikTok, which is great because now the red Chinese can't get into my computer. It is, so I am limited, unfortunately, to the ghetto of alternative and conservative social media, where I have to punch back against these charges. This is really quite simple. Evidently, I was in a chat room with dozens of other people, but that chat room included Stuart Rhodes of the Oath Keepers, who, as you know, is currently charged with seditious conspiracy. By the way, in America, you're still innocent until proven guilty, and he has not yet been tried or found guilty, but I've had no contact with him. I've never spoken to the man. We just happened to be in the same chat room, and looking back at it, I wasn't very active in it, but I never responded to a number of provocative opinions that he put forward. But they would like to, kind of use this to pull me into a conspiracy where none exists. In fact, Austin, Thursday, the final kabuki theater of the January 6th committee hearing will be focused, on me and also on Ginny Thomas. So look for a cornucopia of supposition, conjecture, innuendo, selectively edited and cherry-picked videos, maybe even some deep fake videos. This is an Adam Schiff production directed by Jamie Raskin, one of the oiliest characters I've ever seen. I thought Schiff was shady until I saw this guy Raskin. It's a hit job, but this is how it works. It drives the crowd on Twitter insane. They demand your blood, and they try to stampede the Justice Department into cooking up some charge against you. I will be ready to respond, but it's no way to live, I must tell you.
Yeah, I can imagine. So if you're just tuning into the show, we're speaking to Roger Stone. You can send us a text at 573-319-1037. 1586. Now, as to the allegations that you were part of some kind of a criminal conspiracy, the Washington Post cited an ex-federal prosecutor named Barbara McQuade that said that a one-way transmission from Rhodes does not establish that Stone or any other Trump advisors were part of any conspiracy. Essentially, confirming what you're saying there, that just simply by being spoken to, just because, I have a lot of friends, some of them may be oath keepers, and if they say to me, hey, Austin, let's go overthrow the government, just because they said that to me doesn't mean that I'm part of a conspiracy.
Yeah, and it's particularly interesting because Barbara McQuade was among my harshest critics. She insisted for 2 years I was a Russian spy, I was involved in Russian collusion. She is certainly no friend of Roger Stone. She was really vicious during my trial. People don't really realize this, but on November 3rd, 2020, based on a judge's ruling, the Justice Department was forced to release the last remaining redacted sections of Robert Mueller's report, in which he concluded that he had, quote, no factual basis, close quote, to charge me with Russian collusion, WikiLeaks collaboration, or any involvement in the phishing or publication of John Podesta's authentic and extraordinarily embarrassing emails. That was picked up by absolutely nobody other than BuzzFeed, who brought the actual lawsuit. And they sued the government thinking that these documents would be embarrassing to me. Even they admitted that I was vindicated. But look for that in the New York Times or the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal or MSNBC or the three networks who vilified me for 2.5 years, destroyed me financially and tried to destroy me personally. I mean, I lost my home, my car, my savings, most of my insurance. My wife was my rock during a 2-year ordeal in which I had to stand trial before a hateful, biased federal judge who made no effort to hide her hatred for me or Donald Trump, attacked Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones from the bench when they criticized her. She didn't believe that federal judges should be allowed to be criticized. A rigged jury. We now know that she hid that section of the Mueller report from us before trial, even though we had asked for it. We were denied it. No, it was a Soviet-style show trial. And it is only my faith in God and my prayer to the Almighty that I'm with you today.
Yeah,
I really
you were also the subject of a SWAT raid as well. I mean, fully armed federal agents raiding your home, as if you were some kind of Mexican drug lord or something ridiculous. If you're just tuning into the show this morning, we're speaking to the legendary Roger Stone about the Kangaroo Court of the January 6th Commission. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Now, Roger, you know me. I campaigned in 2016 for the presidency as a libertarian. Eventually that nomination went to Governor Gary Johnson. But I was very harshly critical of Donald Trump at that time. And I changed my mind about him in the 4 years of his presidency because, unlike almost any other president coming before him, he actually did some very libertarian things. You know me as a very deeply principled person, and all I care about are the policies which will advance individual liberty in this country, which is why I was comfortable voting for Donald Trump the second time. And I wonder if you would help me to sort of make a decision here as to the future. If Donald Trump were to run again, do you think that it's a good idea, one, for him to run again? Would you support him if he runs again? And if he was against someone like Ron DeSantis, for example, who's done a terrific job as the governor of Florida, your home state, and somebody who I certainly admire, if this tension arises in the Republican Party, who would you support, and how should we look at that kind of a conflict?
Well, first of all, I think Trump is our strongest nominee because it will take iron cojones to take on the left. I also think he's learned a lot of lessons. I think he underestimated the deep state. I think he underestimated the level of hatred for him among the ruling elite of both parties. I think he's got a very good bead on those in the Republican Party who are in it for the money and the power, but believe in nothing whatsoever and collude with the Democrats. I also think Ron DeSantis is 42 years old, and I'd like him to stay as governor of Florida. His first 2 years were not too good. He found his footing in the last 2 years. He's done a terrific job on the cancel culture, on the effort to indoctrinate our children into public schools with sex, race, and gender lies. He's done a great job on the mask mandates, although we did have mask mandates for 2 years. But I think there's plenty of time for Ron DeSantis. Trump is still dominant in this party. I would, of course, support him because I owe my life to him. I would either still be in federal prison or more probably dead right now, had he not had the courage and the strength to pardon me. So, there's a personal loyalty there, but I also believe he is our strongest candidate. I think he's learned a great deal about who his enemies are.
Roger, you're not only a political pragmatist, but you're also an idealist in certain ways, and I know you're a man of ideas, not just a man of action. So I'll ask you this question. This is kind of a big brain question, but the current groundswell within the Republican Party seems to be a movement towards a new right, which they call maybe a populist right. Some of them, if they want to be more formal, will call themselves national conservatives. And quite frequently, these national conservatives will speak out against people like yourself and myself, people who are libertarians, because they, either one, don't care about our social views when it comes to tolerance, but they also don't care for our views on economics either, attacking people like Friedrich Hayek or Ludwig von Mises or, Ronald Reagan's views on the economy, because they see, the left as someone who they're not going to leave us alone, so we shouldn't leave them alone. And that we should get away from these ideas of slashing government, and get away from these ideas of Friedrich Hayek. Do you have an opinion about the national conservative movement and their views of libertarians? Is this something that we as libertarians should actively resist, or is this a battle with our cousins? How do you see this struggle that's currently occurring within the Republican Party?
Nowhere is this more manifest than in the area of foreign policy. I mean, the war in Ukraine is a perfect example. The folks you're talking about have supported giving billions of dollars to Ukraine for a foreign war where our inherent national interests are just not clear to me. And they may be walking us up to the brink of World War III. I really think there was an anti-interventionist wave in the Republican Party that was really growing stronger. Trump manifested that by saying he was going to pull our troops back from the Middle East. He was tired of the endless foreign wars. Most libertarians, I think, in the Republican Party after Rand Paul folded, moved to Trump as the most viable option. The folks you're talking about sure look like and smell like rhinos to me. In other words, I think they're trying to redefine themselves. This is my concern about Ron DeSantis. I mean, he's a Yale graduate. He was an establishment Republican in the House. He seems to have gotten religion, but he's also kind of zealot-like, imitating the style of Donald J. Trump. So I think that we have to recognize that the Lindsey Grahams of this world, the McCain Republicans, they may try to reinvent themselves, but they're the same old sellouts that they were. It's Bush Republicanism, which isn't Republicanism at all.
If you're just tuning into the show, we're speaking to Roger Stone. He is joining us now on the line. Roger, you're the host of your own show called The Stone Zone that I was on this last Friday. It's a great show. It's on Mike Lindell's network. For all of our listeners who are big fans of yours, who would like to catch your commentary and be able to follow you, even though you have been suppressed on social media, where's the best place for people to go to be able to follow you and hear your commentary, Roger?
Thank you for asking. You go to frankspeech.com at 4 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Eastern. Today, Ashley Babbitt's mother joins us because it is Ashley's 37th birthday for a discussion. And you scroll down to Lindell TV 2. So go to frankspeech.com. The first screen you see will be Lindell TV 1. I think there's a rerun of The War Room with Steve Bannon. You scroll down to Lindell TV 2. You can see the Stone Zone every day at 4 o'clock Central Time. I was honored to have you last week, and I'm looking forward to having Ashley Babbitt's mother, Mickey Withoff, will be with us today to commemorate Ashley Babbitt's birthday. Ashley Babbitt, for those who don't know, is the decorated Air Force combat veteran who was brutally murdered, unarmed, menacing no one, shot and killed in cold blood without warning inside the Capitol on January 6th. There have never been any charges brought against Officer Johnny Bird, who murdered her. In fact, he was given a medal, I believe, or an honor. So I'm very pleased that she's able to join us today. Again, frankspeech.com at 4:00 Central, where you are, and you can tune in for the Stone Zone. We're there 5 days a week, every weekday.
Roger Stone, the man, the myth, the legend. We are super grateful for your time today. Thank you very much. Keep up the good fight, and we'll definitely have you back. Have a good one.
Thank you, Austin.
Thank you. What did you think of Roger Stone's interview? Send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Let's dissect it. Did we get pulled down on any of the social networks? I got to check my PayPal, see if I got a $2,500 fine for all of that stuff. Whoa. No, it wasn't the Stoned Zone, charmed one. It was the Stone Zone. Get your mind out of the weed. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I enlisted as a medic to be there to help my patients, and after an injury, I found myself as a patient. I experienced post-traumatic seizures. Depression is a big one that comes along with it, PTSD. So I pursued my PhD in neuroscience and regenerative medicine. The coalition has helped fund my academic pursuits. They genuinely care about helping the vet in whatever way that they can. Through supporting the coalition, you're supporting some of the veterans that have the biggest needs.
Visit saluteheroes.org to learn more.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun. Thank you very much.
Enough yet? Do facts no longer matter? Are lies to be encouraged instead of punished? This is not our inheritance. If truth no longer matters, we will not remain free for long. This is our generation's challenge, to defend our founders' hope that we the people could self-govern if we defend our right to get the facts. And right now, we're building the only defense of free people have. The facts on every politician, every position they held, every statement they've made, every vote they've made, and any cash they've taken. It's the real history on those now pandering for your vote. There are hundreds of young people building our defense right now, and they need your help. We all have our passions, but as our ancestors knew, when events become so foul they threaten us all, we must stand and defend each other. Please, have our backs. Join us at votesmart.org.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? You can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
Halloween is coming. The festival of Samhain approaches, and your lazy butt doesn't have a Halloween costume yet?
How can you pledge allegiance to the Dark Lord this year and possibly offend everyone at the same time? Visit the AP for Liberty shop and get your shirt today. The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. So grab your government is scary tee and tell everyone at the party that you're here to help. Other great seasonal items are available as well, so don't miss out. Then visit AP for Liberty shop today. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, it's 8:53 and you're watching the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Happy Monday. Thanks so much for joining us. Glad to have you here. What an awesome interview. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Thanks so much for joining us over on YouTube. Today's YouTube Monday. Looks like we got about 30 people over there right now. Glad to have all of our listeners and viewers joining us on Monday on YouTube. We've been doing this experiment where we've been inviting people to join us on a different social network on each day to help pump up the numbers there. And today is for YouTube. Super grateful to have you over there. Definitely enjoying the results that we're seeing from it. So please continue to support us over there. Well, we'll look at a few more minutes in the show left, but I saw this article over the weekend. Everybody was sending it to me because they're like, Austin, your picture's in this article about the Libertarian Party. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, check this out. Over on The Hill yesterday, thehill.com, the Libertarian Party is collapsing. Here's why. Now check it out. Is this an awesome photo or what? There's me over there with my GoPro on my chest, dressed up like I'm a member of some junta, with Gary Johnson there in the middle looking respectable, and John McAfee, I think he's on the run in that picture there, on the lam. And I won't have time to go through all the intricacies of this article. Maybe I'll put this in the show tomorrow. The Libertarian Party is collapsing. Here's why, says Andrew Koppelman. It's a bunch of gobbledygook about how libertarians are so selfish and they're racist. You know, you could write a 2-word article, or you could write a 2-word article. America is jobs. Pull a Joe Biden here on this one. But, you know, it's the same old horse apples. You know, just, man, libertarians are racist. They're evil. Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Oh, he called us racist.
God, please, no.
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, no. Oh, he says, racism seems to be part of libertarianism's appeal to some Americans. He called us racist. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no, please.
Oh, my God, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, boy. Get your goddamn ugly ass on.
This entire article could be summed up with this one sound effect. I haven't been using the soundboard much this morning. Austin, what's wrong with you?
How dare you?
I know. I need to use the soundboard a little bit more. Same regurgitated BS, says Brandon Meyer. Of course. Slag O over on YouTube says, great show today, AP. Well, thank you, brother. I'm glad to have you here. Yes, racism seems to be part of libertarianism's appeal to some Americans. Can the left please get a new script to come after libertarians for? I love this one. Some libertarians even dream of abandoning the state. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Perfect.
For enclaves. What does he say? Hold on. Some libertarians even dream of abandoning the state for clusters of self-governing enclaves. Ooh, like the states almost. Some of which could be all white. Oh my God. Oh my God. All white. Oh, that's the worst thing ever. Boy, you know, that is just the worst thing ever. Whatever you do, don't get a bunch of white people together. Whenever white people are together, we got to get in there. We got to bust them apart, and we just got to say, absolutely not. No white people allowed. Exactly. White people, man, they're just the devil. I love it. He continues on. Libertarianism offers a peculiar vision of the heroic, solitary individual who sustains himself without any external support. The WakeUpAmericaShow.com is a one-man show, but it contains a lot of external support from people like you. The Wake Up America show could not exist without the support of viewers and listeners like you. And that means I've got to make an appeal. I've got to ask you to make a donation today to the Wake Up America show. The only way that this show continues, the only way that it runs, is if people like you support it. Where are you going to get more interviews with me and Roger Stone if the show were to go away? What about me and Van Skin talking about End the Fed? Where would you get your daily dose of End the Fed? Make a donation to the show today. Become a monthly sponsor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. You can make a one-time donation, and I would be super grateful. Help to support the program so I can do more great content like this, and we can fight the powers that be, fight the establishment, and fight for liberty. Thank you very much for supporting us. Don't forget, tomorrow is the last show in studio. Wednesday, you're going to get a best of program that I'll play for you. But then Thursday, we'll stream live from Florida for our special in Florida. It's going to be a good one. And then I'm taking the day off Friday, doing some scuba diving with my lovely lady and my two friends. Because after all, what is freedom really all about if you can't enjoy it? Thanks very much for all your support and your friendship. We'll be back tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
It's morning again in America. Our country is prouder and stronger and better.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Your printing company stinks. They charge you too much money and they don't love America enough. We've got the solution. Patriot Printing USA. Whether you're running for office, saving souls, or just need business cards that will get you the new job you've been looking for, Patriot Printing USA has got you covered with the best prices around. Palm cards, brochures, bumper stickers, door hangers, you name it. We've got it. PatriotPrintingUSA.com. That's PatriotPrintingUSA.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
Average Americans are turning into conspiracy theorists at an unprecedented rate. Flip City Magazine was created for new converts to aid in their in-depth research along the path of absolute truth. We offer the hardest-hitting news and opinion delivered uncensored in print directly to your door. Display proudly on your coffee table or hide discreetly under your mattress. Flip City is the magazine they don't want you to see, much less read. Subscribe to Flip City Magazine today at flipcitymag.com.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.